Ah, the German U-boat, with all its sexiness and metal roundness. Just look at it as it prowls the oceans looking for its next target. But of course, if you were the Allies listening to this video right now, you'd probably hate me, because in its heyday, the German U-boat was the scourge of the Allied naval war effort. As they patrolled the oceans of the world, German U-boats destroyed everything in their path, and at the conclusion of the war, German U-boats had sunk over 5,000 ships, measuring more than 13 million tons lost. Alongside this, countless lives were lost. But of course, if I was to ask you to name a single German U-boat, you probably couldn't, because, well, that is the central question of today's video. Why did German U-boats not have names? But many of you are probably confused as to what a U-boat is. To put it simply, the U-boat is a type of submarine used in varying capacities by all three German naval forces that preceded the modern-day German Navy. These three being the Imperial German Navy of the German Empire from 1871 to 1919, the interwar Realm Navy of the Weimar Republic from 1919 to 1935, and the War Navy of Germany from 1935 to 1945. Of course, as mentioned before, the U-boat was a key weapon for the German Navy during both World War I and World War II. The term U-boat is short for the German Unterseeboot, and for us English speakers, it doesn't take a genius to know that that translates to undersea boat in German. U-boats were used primarily for naval warfare, including the sinking of ships and submarines, as well as for reconnaissance and transportation. The German U-boat posed a serious danger to Allied ships during the war, and were renowned for their stealth and long-range capabilities. German employment of the U-boats to establish a naval blockade on the United Kingdom and the United States was essential to the success of the German war effort in the beginning of the war. The U-boats were also employed to transfer soldiers and supplies to German bases in occupied countries, as well as to strike the coastal towns and cities of hostile countries. But despite their detrimental importance to the German war effort and the fear factor they induced on those sailing the seas, U-boats did not have official names, unlike many other German military vessels. There are several reasons for this, but before these reasons I must address the fact that during World War I, German U-boats included letters alongside the standard U. German U-boats used during World War I were divided into different letter designations. Many German U-boats began with the letters SM, SM of course standing for the German Seine Majestat, which of course translates to His Majesty's, and combined with the U for Unterseeboot would be translated as His Majesty's Submarine. The U designation was generally reserved for ocean-going attack torpedo U-boats. The UB designation was used for coastal attack U-boats, while the UC designation was reserved for coastal mine-laying U-boats. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that German U-boats were named according to the number in which they were built. Of course, U1 was built, then U2 was built, then U3 was built, and then so on and so on. Of course, we also know Germany lost in the end of World War I, and under the terms of the armistice, all U-boats were to immediately surrender. Of course, we know what happened there, and when Germany resumed building submarines in the 1930s, the numbering of the submarines was restarted at 1. The renumbering was restarted at 1 a third time when Germany resumed building submarines in the 1960s. And now it's time for the reasons why German U-boats didn't have names. First off, since submarines and torpedo boats are boats rather than ships, they were given less importance in the historical naval hierarchy. This hierarchy, of course, carried over to all the major navies at the time, the most notable being the Royal Navy of Britain. The Royal Navy gave the torpedo boats numerical names, but gave its torpedo boat destroyers, later referred to as destroyers, names. But unlike Germany, the Royal Navy switched from assigning submarine numbers to names after the First World War, by which time they had already become a vital military tool. However, they had the same numbers as U-boats up until 1918. The US Holland Company provided the blueprints for the first 5 British submarines, which were completed and given the designations Holland 1 through Holland 5. After then, British submarines were manufactured in consecutive classes, each of which had a class initial and a number. Secondly, naming U-boats would not have served any useful purpose, as their main objective was to sink enemy ships. U-boats were sometimes only in service for a few patrols before being lost in battle, unlike ships, which frequently have extended service lives and became well known to their crew and other Navy personnel. Remember that over the war's 5.5 years, German shipyards produced 1,156 U-boats, of which 784 or 67% were destroyed by the enemy or other factors. Given their brief lifespans, giving them names would not have been necessary. Thirdly, the German Navy allocated whole numbers to U-boats for administrative purposes to identify them. Naming the submarines would have added needless complexity to the system, and this was a more effective approach to identify and monitor them. It would have been difficult to name all the German U-boats that were in service throughout the war, and it would have been logistically impossible to keep track of names for every U-boat, as they were continually being built, sunk, and retired. Lastly, U-boats were used for stealth operations, and maintaining secrecy was an important part of their operations. Naming them would have given the enemy another means of identifying them. So, in conclusion, German U-boats do not have names because they served a mainly stealth purpose, and so many of them were being built in such quick succession that naming all of them would have been a logistical nightmare. This has been me, Jack, and if you're on a U-boat right now, please like the video.